I'm Jenny Robertson, founder of the On Purpose Woman Global Community and the founder and publisher of On Purpose Woman magazine. I'm here with Andrea Hylen to talk about her article in the May-June issue of On Purpose Woman magazine. Hi, Andrea. Thanks for being here with me.
Hi, Ginny. It's just hard to believe it's been 2 months since the last writers' chat. So it's
I
fun to
know.
be here and chat with you today.
I
Thanks.
always look forward to chatting with you. But before we kind of dive into your article, tell our viewers a bit about you.
Oh, let's see what's on my mind today. What pops up because this is part of conscious self-evolution, like tuning in to the field. I love the mystery of life. That's how I want to begin. I work with women primarily who are working on their creative self-expression, might be writing books, blogs. I like to do that in community. I have a free space on Facebook, and I also have a paid program once a year. And yeah, the thing I'll share with everyone today is I'm currently writing my next book. And it's been something I've been working on, well, probably all my life. And the last 10 years, I've done some talks, written some articles about it. It's called Follow the Clues,
Mm.
Live Your Life Like a Research Project. So I'm really immersed in that right now. And it feels like those are the conversations that keep coming up right now. Follow the clues.
Well,
Yeah.
you've written a ton of books and you've been responsible for other women writing a ton of books. And so for you to spend this much time on your book, is that kind of unprecedented? Or, has it been, you've written a couple of other ones that are just about you and your work, but this one feels
Well,
bigger.
I feel, the great thing about writing your own book when you've worked with women on their own creative self-expression in their businesses and any kind of thing around creative self-expression is that it helps to remind me about what it really means to trust the process, what it really means to come to points where it's like, I'm in love with this book. I love this topic. And then other times where I'm like, oh, this is so hard. Why am I doing this? Maybe there's something else for me to do. It's like life, you get to practice it. So the biggest challenge is um, making a commitment to it,
Mm.
that I spend some time with it every day, even if I sit in silence and I don't have any words. And so, yeah, it's not something that I have done in a while. I mean, I think well, I want to say the last book of this size I finished in 2018. So it's been a while.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't wait to read it. I'm really excited.
Mm,
And I
me.
find it so interesting, and it'll go into what we're going to talk about today, that you're writing about life as a research project, and the writing of the book is a research project. And so, the idea is that we're always in a research project, right? No matter what
Yeah,
we're doing.
we are.
We were talking a little bit earlier about, I had my first grandchild coming, and
Yeah.
I'm clueless about babies. I never
Mhm.
was that great about babies. I was
Mhm.
a great baby mom, but and you've got some experience on that, but yet, it's a research project. It's another one. And in this particular project, I'm a beginner.
Mhm.
And I love that when I realized that. And so I think that in all of this, we can be beginners again, and it's okay. You know,
Absolutely. And
so,
that failure is your friend. I feel like if there's one thing, one of the big messages is that failure is your friend. And there can be this thing about holding on so tight and trying to get it right, but somebody else has told you what is right.
yeah,
So
exactly.
then you get to figure out what is right for me. And
Mhm.
what do I want to explore? My gosh, our lives here are so short on the planet, and I do believe in past lives and future lives. So I believe I'll be back for another round. And all I can count on today is this moment.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yes, wise words, Andrea. Thank you. And well, I just had a thought that went kind of woohoo. Let's see. Oh, and then we'll start talking about your article, but you're stirring up some things in me. This whole idea of life as a research project, if everything worked out, there would be no need for research. We just do the one thing and we go, oh, that's good. I'm gonna go do the next thing now. But research is all about finding what works and what doesn't work. And then
Yeah.
when it doesn't work, learning from that and finding something else that works,
Mhm.
rather than, like you said, getting attached to I should know this, or this should have worked the first time, or it should
I
be
should have done this
perfect.
earlier. I'm too
Yeah.
old. I'm too young. I'm not the right gender. I don't live in the right culture. Whatever. It's
Mhm.
just like, yeah, try.
It's all BS. It's really all
Yeah,
BS
it
that we've
is.
been fed, right? Yes.
It is. It is. And with the new baby coming, you're going to get to see how you'll be able to witness in person how this baby is born with curiosity and desire and the right to take up space and ask for what the needs are,
Mhm.
Yeah.
As we all have that right.
We all have
A
that
great
right.
reminder. Yes.
Yeah.
And this really does tie into what we're talking about today in a big way,
Mhm.
I think, because you're writing a series of 10 articles on conscious self-evolution. And so let's talk a little bit for anybody who hasn't seen any of your interviews or
Mhm.
read your articles yet. What inspired you to write about conscious self-evolution and to commit to 10 articles on it?
Mhm. Well, and yeah, okay, so I'll speak to that too. First of all, I want to say that right after the death of my husband, it was actually the weekend of his memorial service, I received a postcard in the mail from a good friend of mine that Lucky Sweeney and Bonnie Kelly were going to have an evolutionary women retreat. And I knew a lot about evolutionary women. I knew that Barbara Marx Hubbard was a mentor of both of them. And it felt like it was coming at just on the threshold of what is the next part of my life going to be. And I thought, I want to be an evolutionary woman. Like, what is that? And that led me to 5 months later go to this retreat in Santa Barbara where Barbara Marx Hubbard was speaking as the main speaker at that particular Evolutionary Women retreat. And I had prepared by listening to her work and reading her books before I went, not knowing and actually, I feel like I've written this in a couple of articles about listening to the material and going, I don't understand what she's talking about. And the more I listened to it, it was like these little cells of my body started waking up. And I'd say, oh, on some level, I understand what she's talking about. Now, how do I live that? Or how do I talk about it to other people? And it was through some studying with her and reading her book, 52 Codes for Conscious Self-Evolution, where she kind of broke it down into these 52 codes. So I thought, well, I'm not going to write 52 articles, but I'll choose 10 of the codes to focus on. And then I've tied in some of the principles of the other codes. But to me, it is about raising our thoughts, raising our consciousness. And so even though that's the title of this article and that's where we are, there's like cycles within cycles. So the other thing I'll just share is that one of the early codes that I shared is about receiving a flash of an idea, a flash of an insight, and that's part of what happens. And that can happen anywhere in the cycle, even though I started by talking about that flash of an idea. And part of having a flash of an idea, something that you're going to, it could be something like, oh, I feel like this food is giving me a stomach ache. I'm going to stop eating it for a week and see how my body feels. Like that, that's a research project and it's a flash of an insight. Or you get an idea for a business, or you have an idea to go visit a place and you meet someone there. And, those flashes lead us when we take inspired action around them. And so that to me is at the basis of conscious self-evolution. It is becoming more conscious of the choices you're making, the things you're saying yes to, things you're saying no to, and how is that in connection with how you want to be living your life? Where do you have choice? And you're making a choice that's against what you really are saying that you want.
That's where the conscious piece comes in, right?
That's
This
where the conscious
paying
piece comes in.
attention. Yeah.
And evolution is, there, I mean, hopefully we're always looking to improve who we are and what we bring to the world. The world meaning the people you live with, the people in your neighborhood, what you want to bring onto social media, all of those things. But it begins with you.
Yeah. And there are levels of consciousness too. So it's not like we get to one space and go, okay, got it. Because
Mhm.
I know I thought that in the early days that there was some place to get to. And
Mhm.
when I thought, oh, I've got this figured out now, then something big would come along and just have me on my knees again, going, oh, I didn't know
Yeah.
anything. And so it's when you talked about paying attention
Mhm.
really to those thoughts that come in, those ideas that you have, those moments of inspiration, I may have a thought today that just bypasses me, that it leaves because it's fleeting and it's not for me today. That
Mhm.
same thought could come in next year and it
Mhm.
won't have meaning. So
Yes,
you say
yes.
to
And like
pay,
all of a sudden you're like, okay, wait a minute. I've thought this before. This feels familiar.
yeah,
Sit with this now. I'm going to be with this. And I think that is how they come in. And I'll just jump into one of the stories that I told also because something that you said made me think of that. There was a moment about raising your consciousness that I experienced in high school. And it was a moment that was memorable. There are times where something happens and you remember that moment.
yeah,
And many times we look back on the decades and go, I remember that moment. That didn't mean I started living from a raised consciousness all the time. It was that in that moment, I realized I had the power to not react to something someone was saying to me and to actually just be with it for a minute and pause and not give the rapid answer that I was used to, just like somebody saying something and me defending something or me angry or whatever, reacting in some way. It was just like, okay, pause, and I remembered it happening. But then later in my life, I could then remember that as a touchstone of like, oh, that's what that is. That's what that looks like. I didn't have, and no one in my family or friends were talking about higher consciousness. It was just a moment that I then, once I experienced it later, I could tap back to that. Oh, that's what happens. Let me
yeah.
try that again.
And I was going to ask you to start with that. So thank you, because we're
Yeah.
talking about raising your thoughts. That is code,
Yes.
let's see, code 38. And also we're talking about code 40, which is about communicating directly, I guess, from those raised thoughts. So
Yes.
that my full potential self can communicate with your full potential self and reach
Mhm.
that. And so when that happened, or maybe looking back, what was the impact that you think it had in the moment? There was an awareness, obviously, that you were doing something different.
I would say a direct impact that came from that is a recognition of gossiping.
Mm,
And it's like it didn't mean that I stopped gossiping, but it meant that I could palpably feel what it felt like when someone had said something about me that wasn't true, or something that I was saying about someone else that wasn't true. I mean, not completely, whatever. I was embellishing or exaggerating something or trying to get my own attention or you know, whatever we need as teenagers or adults um, in that moment. So it feels like there was something that it didn't necessarily change my behavior completely, but I did have a different feeling when I would say it. And so raising your thoughts, you start to realize, okay, there's something here, like I'm speaking from jealousy and and I mean, jealousy is actually a really powerful emotion when we can see that it's actually connected with desire, and that we wouldn't feel jealous if it wasn't something. And so part of learning about raising your thoughts is actually, oh, here's jealousy. What is my desire? So turning it within to reflect instead of spewing it out,
Mhm.
that's part of the raising of your thoughts. And I will say that although I was not and still am not a perfect human being, I don't have all the answers. I make mistakes and all that. I do believe it did impact um, my leadership in my ability to lead in high school, and that I had I'll just say, good reputation in a way that it was like uh, respected, you know?
Yeah.
And I think those are some clues also, where you feel like, I feel like I'm respected in this space, then I must be doing something that, it's like with anything. If you want to build trust in a relationship, then you become trustworthy.
Yes. Okay.
If you want to be respected in an environment, then you are respectful of others. So you don't spread rumors. You don't tell stories that, maybe three people have told you, but you don't have any evidence of that. And you have not been privy to what's going on with a person. Yeah.
In my experience, having those moments that are memorable to look back on, like you said, we don't always notice them necessarily in the
Mhm.
moment,
Mhm.
but they're life-changing because for me, once I knew something, I couldn't not know it again.
Yeah.
So there's no real hiding from it anymore. And you don't know when it'll come up again. It may be years before it surfaces and we go, oh, that's what that was. But it
Mhm.
does impact us, I think, on a very deep level and can change our behavior, can change our outlook, can change our thoughts and our words, our deeds, and all of that. So it's really powerful, isn't it?
Mhm. Yeah, it is. And it becomes an ongoing practice,
Mhm.
you know. I'm currently in a home with one of my daughter and son-in-law own, and I have a 2-year-old grandson here and another baby on the way. And there are times where I will say something to my daughter and then I backpedal it. And I'm like, I am so sorry. That actually felt like some old automatic response. And I don't mean that and I don't feel that. So, reset and pause are two of the words that we use in the household.
I like that.
Like just the automatic stuff that comes out of our mouths sometimes. And it feels like either conditioning and God bless my mother, that I don't want to blame her for everything. I have my own things that my daughters are critical of. And sometimes I'll hear my mother's voice coming out of me, and she may not even use those words these days, but at one point she did with
Yeah.
me. And I'm like, okay, ugh, like that doesn't feel good. And I want to up level this.
Andrew, I think you said something so important there that when you said that, or when you say something like that, instead of just saying, I'm sorry, you said, I didn't mean it, or I don't think it, and I don't believe it. It's not how I feel. Or you said something that just
Yeah.
grabbed
Yeah.
me, that is so much deeper than just, I'm sorry,
Mhm.
because it sounds so genuine and like you've really stepped back and gone, oh, yeah, think I know how I would feel if this were directed at me right now, right? Because
Yeah.
I have felt it.
Mhm.
And so that's a deep I think, heartfelt apology that we maybe don't always get to, I should say. I don't know, underneath it all, rather than just, oh, I'm sorry, or that old, I'm sorry if I offended you, or I'm sorry if I did anything that had you upset, right? Those kind of
Right.
things. It's like
Yeah,
full ownership
totally.
of it, but also telling the truth about it and being vulnerable. And that's so important, I think, in communication. We have the thoughts. That was a thought that just popped up because, we're conditioned for those thoughts. And
Yeah,
if something's getting
somewhere
pushed,
in there.
I'll say something and I'll go, who said that? Where did
Mm-hmm.
that come from? And I can always go back and think, oh, it was something that was said either right before that or a little before that, or maybe last week that I'm still holding on to. And I just lashed out as a response and
Mm-hmm.
didn't even know I was doing it. But it's so freeing, I think, to when we can notice our thoughts. Like you said, we can't always catch them ahead of time, but we do
Yeah.
notice when we say something to others or to ourselves even, and
Mm-hmm.
we can make amends in the moment with others and with ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
It's so powerful. And I have a question. There's a question in here somewhere.
Yeah, yeah.
Since we are all humans, and for those of us especially who've been practicing metaphysics or in those spiritual spaces of knowing that our thoughts are powerful and that they direct everything, what kind of practices do you use to kind of stay more grounded in that, that would help others, listening to this today or reading the article? Like when we find ourselves going to that other place and we don't want to be there, or whether it's preemptive or, in the moment, can you share some of the things that you do to keep yourself on that ground?
Yeah, I mean, definitely one of the tips that I have is slow down in communication. And so that becomes a practice in itself, that we don't need to be so rapid fire about everything. And it's okay to take a breath. It's okay to practice. But one of the things that I listed in the article was talking about meditation and stillness. And uh, yeah, I called them all meditation practices, and it's about expanding it. But there's definitely uh, there's things like regular meditation where you might get the image of sitting on the cushion and being quiet for a period of time. But walking meditation, pausing, pausing. I mean, like that is a practice throughout the day, is to pause. And I know that you have a very full schedule, Jenny. I do the same kind of thing where I have a very full schedule, but I do have times in between every call to just pause, let what just happened kind of sink in, and to complete that experience for myself with silence. And then instead of going to the next, like, turning on an audio to listen or thinking I've got to turn on some noise, it might be even just to walk through the house quietly, for a short period of time, or sitting and sipping on water. It's funny because we think that, I mean, I do practice Qigong and Tai Chi and do some of those practices to get into stillness and move the energy in my body. But more than that, it is the pausing in different ways that I might have in the past called meditation.
Mm.
Yeah.
That's
Just slow it down a little bit.
And that's something we can all do at any moment. We don't have to go sit quietly by ourselves and meditate for 20 minutes, because I know when I first started getting into things like this, I thought I've got to learn to do that. I've got to
Uh-huh.
learn to meditate, and then I've got to do it every day for a certain period of time. And I'm just not I'm not a regular meditator.
Mhm.
I've got that mind that just goes a million places. And I used to think I was supposed to do something with that until
Mhm.
I found like mindfulness meditation, where you're just really noticing the thoughts. But to think that we can just pause and get a drink of water
Mhm.
and just kind of be with the water for a moment, feel how
Yeah.
it feels going down our throat and into our body. You know, that resets everything. Or it can, can't it?
It does. And I know that you post a gratitude question on Sundays, and that gratitude can be also in the moment of sipping that water. You
Mhm.
know, thank you. Thank you, water. Thank you for nourishing my body. There's something about returning to yourself. And so those pauses are not about, I mean, you might notice something, you might look out the window, you might hear the birds singing, something like that. But it is about then the connection you have with that, which returns you to yourself. Yeah,
Yes.
there's something about that, continuing to return to yourself. So having that moment of thank you, water, and being aware of it going down your throat and into your body, and just pausing for a moment, return to yourself. I feel like, when I circle back to the whole idea of gossiping, for instance, that takes us outside of ourselves.
Mm.
It's not really, or looking to the outside to validate us or something.
Feel a hole that's something's missing. And
Right,
yeah.
right. Trying to fill something, feeling bored, or I mean, we probably talk about that for a long time. Why
Mhm.
why do people gossip? And yeah, I don't know. That's really striking me today. Like, why don't we just wish the best for everyone? I'm a huge Taylor Swift fan,
Me too. Me too.
and I had the good fortune of seeing her on stage with the Jonas Brothers in 2008. And it was that summer that they were filming. We got like these special free tickets to get into a filming of their concert where they did this filming during the day to get some shots and everything. And the girls were in there. And so I didn't hover around the stage. I sat up in the bleachers and kind of watched my daughter at the stage and watched Taylor Swift. And there was just something from the very beginning there of like, I want to keep watching her. It was her ability to put words and music to feelings. I feel like it was to describe things that many teenage girls felt, whatever. And it's so fascinating to just see how many haters there are.
Yeah.
It's like, what is that? Like, you don't like her music, you don't want to be around her, then don't, what do you need to say? Why do we need to bring people down? And we do it with neighbors or people in stores or, like, oh, why is that person wearing pajamas in the grocery store instead of, hmm, wow, maybe I want to wear pajamas the next time I come. That
They look
that's
really comfortable, don't they?
right, right. That seems really
Yeah.
comfortable. And
Yeah.
boy, I would have gotten a few things done quicker if I could have just zipped over here in my pajama. Anyway, just stories,
Yeah.
stories. So raise your thoughts. What are you focusing on in your life? Raise your thoughts. Is it bringing love into the world? Hey, feel what you're feeling. You're feeling anger? Explore it. Ask yourself questions. Why am I feeling angry? Is there something I can do about this or change about this? Yeah. And then I'll just jump in because you might have asked me about this, but or may not. But one of the things that I do is I like to read quotes by people who are thinking from a higher place. And again, what that is, you find those people. To me, it's been Barbara Marx Hubbard, Jean Houston, Nassim Haramein. They're asking questions. I mean, listening to Nassim, he's another one where I'm like, I don't know what he's talking about, but I can feel there's some kind of vibration in it. I just want to stay close to it, but I think of him as like a, a current Einstein type person, and he's asking bigger questions, about what is the universe, or how does it all fit together, or whatever. So just challenge your thinking a little bit by raising your thoughts to that. Um, it'll take you out of the kind of mundane stuff that in the long run doesn't really matter.
That really low vibration stuff that keeps us stuck down
Yeah, yeah,
there. Excuse me.
yeah. Thinking people should be doing something other than what they're doing. And, what do you want to
It
be
really
doing?
is that simple, isn't it?
It
It
is. It
really is.
is.
Not necessarily easy to practice.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Believe
Yeah.
me, maybe I sound like I have it all together around it. This is the practice.
Yeah.
These are
Yeah.
the things I tell myself, oh, you're stuck in this lower vibration of thinking. Matter of fact, if there's someone who's such an irritant in your life, then bless them to live their life in the way that they want to live, and turn your attention to something else, someone
Mhm.
else,
Yeah.
another focus. And the last thing that I had on my list there was I was just looking for the book that a friend of mine, a client actually wrote a book, Activate Your Highest Potential with Sacred Geometry. And she really has awakened that in me. It was something I've always been drawn to different shapes, and have had times where I've just looked at things on the side of a building. It might be a stained glass window shape in a church or something just caught my eye. But I also feel like those symbols are things that can speak to us because they are ancient symbols. Where did they come from? Why are they here? Um, and because then you see that sacred geometry symbol that you might see on a picture is also in nature, it's in food, it's in book, like our world is constructed of sacred geometry. So things like that take me out of my head or trying to control things, and just takes me into the present and feeling what that is in my body.
Thank you.
Mhm.
I want to say one more thing,
Mhm.
and that is I'm a fan of this woman named Carolyn Hax, Hax, who writes an advice column for the Washington Post. And
Mhm.
I don't never saw myself as an advice columnist reader.
Uh-huh.
Back to the days of Dear Abby when I was a kid, I used to find them amusing. But I love her responses. And I recently realized the reason I love her responses so much is that it reminds me that only a tiny, minuscule number of things are any of my business. It's just none of my business. I don't have the right to an opinion about that.
Mhm.
I haven't, if it's somebody who needs my assistance, then they will ask me for it, hopefully. But, and it's those lower vibration thoughts of how they should be doing it differently. Or, when I read somebody's question, I go, oh God, I know what she's going to say on this one, because she kind of lets them have it sometimes and thinks, you're making this all about you, and it
Yeah.
just reminds me yet again. And I find I react to that. She'll come to me in the middle of the day when I'm having a thought about something
Mhm.
that is none of my business,
Yes.
and it's so freeing. That is so freeing. And so
Mhm.
my desire is to live more and more of that, of so many things, most things being none of my business
Mhm.
outside of me,
Yeah.
everything in me is my business, but outside of me, if somebody wants to make it my business, they have to ask, you know, and man, I just envision that as such a free way to live life, because those moments of it feel really good,
Mhm.
really good. So, and
One of the things I love, let me jump in here for a minute. One of the things that I love about what you were just sharing is that she's not coming across as like, oh, let's all sing Kumbaya, my Lord. No, she's saying, look at what you're doing. She's actually challenging in a way that could bring up a feeling of humiliation. It could be a feeling of anger. It could be a feeling of fear. Or what if people knew this about me? Or whatever those things are. So it's not that she's giving advice that is having us all in a peace circle. It's I'm going to tell you this honest, direct look at this. And then when you look at that and you start to unravel it and you make a different choice around that, that's what brings you the peace. That's what brings you the joy. That's what brings you the happiness. It's not about avoiding those other feelings. It's about coming to terms with what's happening or making a different choice. And then that creates space for those, the raising of your thoughts. So sometimes raising your thoughts is like, get down in the mud and see what's down in there. And let's pull some things up by the root and let's sit with the discomfort of what that is. And that is where the freedom is. That's where the evolution is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We can't fake raising our thoughts.
No.
I kind of learned to do that in the early days. Oh, we're just supposed to be happy
Think
and
positive thoughts.
think positive thoughts. Oh, and use all the catchphrases and to share everybody how much I learned, and it's like,
Yeah,
it's messy. It's all very messy and beautiful and wonderful and all of that. So
yeah.
I always love having conversations with you, Andrea. Is there anything you want to leave us with, or do you feel complete on this topic? And then I want you to tell everybody a little bit where they can find out more about you.
Yeah, I would say the one thing on the list that we didn't talk about, I just want to say practice self-compassion. Look, it's hard being a human being, we do mess up. Just practice self-compassion and then have compassion for others. So this isn't like I'm going to get it right, I'm going to get it perfect. It's just asking yourself questions and looking at where you could make adjustments and how we can all do better. So I'll leave it with that. And then to get in touch with me, I would just go to my website, andreahylen.com. And the two things I'll shine a light on right now is that I opened up my paid program of the Incubator early this year because there were some women who were working on projects, and I thought, oh, let's do some of this work over the summer. Officially, the group doesn't open until the fall, but I'm doing some one-on-one coaching. We're doing some radio shows, things like that over the summertime. So take a look at the Incubator, the paid program, and then I have a free creativity site on the Facebook that is also called the Incubator, but it says the free creativity community. And just come on over. I offer free things there and hopefully inspiring people to embrace your creativity, whatever that is. It can be the way you see the world. That can be creativity. So no limitation about what it means to be creative. Come on over and expand your vision of creativity.
Thank you, Andrea. I always love where you come from with your writing because it's usually something that challenges me a bit, or never actually looked at it quite that way before. So I really always appreciate the thought and the time and the energy you put into your words. And you've shared so many of them with On Purpose Woman magazine. So I just want to just acknowledge you and appreciate you for that.
Thank you, Ginny. Thank you for the opportunity. Thank you for creating a place where women can share their words and come together in community, and then how you shine the spotlight on women. So thank you. Thank you. And thank you to the listeners. Thank you to everyone, and raise your thoughts. That's how we change things in the world.
And please check out Andrea's website, andreahylen.com. It is in the text of this video. And also, let's see, the article. Andrea wrote a lot more than what we talked about today. So you can go read the article at On Purpose Woman magazine. And that link is also in the text of this video. And you can access Andrea's, Andrea's old articles, if you will, in our archives. And that link is also in the text of this video. And I want to thank anyone watching. Please, thank you for watching the Real Women, Real Purpose talk show. And for more information on the On Purpose Woman Global Community and magazine, please click on the links in this video. And for more interviews with amazing women living their lives on purpose, if you're not watching this on our YouTube channel, you want to go over to our YouTube channel, which is called the On Purpose Woman Global Community, and find hundreds of wonderful interviews with women who are real, who are out there making their unique difference and an impact on the planet. Thanks again for watching.